and welcome to My Business Rules with me, Sindiswa Myeza, right here on CNBC Africa. Now, it's a beautiful day in Centurion, Johannesburg. We're here to meet Kabir Mohammed, who's the MD of Buhle braids, as well as Dazzle. Today, we're talking hair products. Join me.
Good evening. My name is Kabir Mohammed. I'd like to welcome you to Dazzle, South Africa's glamorous hair boutique. Dazzle was founded by myself as part of a family business. Our company is called Buhle Braids, and we distribute hair extensions in South Africa, which we've been doing for the past 30 years. My business rules, because it's a business founded on family values and principles, and the second most important thing for us as a company is quality for our consumer. We ensure the quality of our wigs and any product that we'd like to put into the market.
Kabir, let's start right at the beginning. Give us the history of where your company started and how far back.
So this takes us back to around 1989. What happened is actually my uncle and my grandfather and my aunt ran a clothing store in Marabastad in Pretoria. And a friend of my grandfather's, a guy I befriended who was a Korean guy, actually wanted to leave and go back home, back to Korea. So he came over and he brought a whole lot of hair products, being wigs at the time, to my granddad and said, you know, please man, can't you just help me out here and take the stock from me? I want to go back home. I just want to cash up and leave. So my granddad, being his friend, said, yeah, okay, you know, just leave it here. Didn't check the stuff or anything, gave him a value. This guy left his phone number, packed up and shot off back to Korea. So he packed it up and within a month, all the goods were sold. So, I mean, this sparked a fire in my uncle and said, hey, listen, there's a business. I mean, so he asked my granddad, can't I get in touch with this guy? So he put him in touch, phoned Korea, flew up to Korea and started buying wigs from Korea. Slowly, what had happened is the clothing started waning out and the wig store grew. So majority of the store became wigs. And thereafter, my uncle started distributing the stuff. So he was one of the first 3 distributors in South Africa. And this was from around 1992 till when I joined the company in 2001. So I've been with the family business for 13 years now, and I've been the managing director of the company for the past 8. What has happened lately is we've realized that there's a need for a good retail store once again, and at that time we had the largest selection of wigs available in South Africa. So we felt it would be good to bring back that heritage and give the South African consumer a good choice with good quality products once again. And that is why we set up Dazzle Sandton City in August of 2014.
It's interesting, but talk us through some of the range of products that you have here in your retail shops and also here.
So in terms of a range, we have products from the low end right up to the high end, right? The categories are split in certain ways. So you have braiding items, you have weaving items, and you have wig items, right? So within the braiding category, you've got synthetic braiding and you've got human hair braiding. Within the weaving, it's the same, and within the wigs, it's the same, except with the wigs, they add a small dimension, right? You have what is called lace front wigs. Then you've got monofilament wigs, which are fully hand-tied, which are quite conducive to being used in by cancer patients. Then you've got shaitels, which are wigs that are used by Jewish women to cover their hair. So all of these sort of products are available through Buhle Braids. In fact, we also have an extension into the Caucasian market with hair extensions. We run a brand called Hair Talk, which is the first tape extension product produced in the world. Hair Talk is the proprietor of tape technology, and it's developed in Germany by a gentleman named Alex Günther. Alex has given us the agency for Southern Africa for Hair Talk. So we quite cover the spectrum in terms of product range.
I mean, I'm one of the product user basically, because I change hairstyles almost every month. But who are your biggest consumers? Does it cut across cultural lines?
There's no doubt that this does cut across cultural lines. I mean, in the store in Dazzle, we have Indian customers, white customers, black customers, Chinese customers, people from all over the world, and people from all different ethnicities. You know, it's been a sort of a misnomer that it's only African women that use extensions. That's a total misnomer. In fact, a big portion of the market is Caucasian extensions. So within our business, I would say around 30% of our business is focused on Caucasian and non-African clientele. and the 70% is on ethnic clientele. But that's primarily because we are based in an African country. If you look at this as a global industry, right? Globally, I mean, Japan is a huge industry for hair extensions. America is huge, and so is Europe. So these are not primarily African people. So one must understand that wigs, weaves, extensions are worn across the cultural and ethnic spectrum. Yeah.
Who's your biggest supplier in terms of getting your product?
Okay, so raw material generally comes from India. Right?
Okay.
So the largest supplier of raw material globally, human hair that is, right, is India, right? In terms of synthetic hair is produced in fiber companies in Japan as well as Korea, right? So basically it segments. So you need to understand that raw material comes from India as well as China, and synthetic raw material comes from China, Japan and Korea. So that's where we would source our raw material from. But in terms of production, right, the major producers of human hair and synthetic hair weavings, etc., in the world is China, like in most other industries. Although you do have some small producers of human hair in Brazil, you do have some small producers of human hair in Italy as well. In Africa, we have no human hair production. India is slowly starting to add value to the raw material by setting up factories. So we would buy the raw material from India, from the large distributors in India, send it to China and get it processed and produced in China according to our specifications and our design. So that's basically the long and short of our supply chain.
So does it make it more expensive to get it from India and then process it in China and then sell it here? Is that the reason why some of these human hair products are expensive?
I wouldn't say that it's the actual production that makes it expensive. The cost of human hair is really in the raw material itself. One must understand that, I mean, human hair is from a human being. So there's two ways of procuring human hair raw material. The one way is called brush hair. Now, India has had a culture, and this is something I noticed in my grandmother, and I mean, up until I could see her brushing her hair, and she used to collect the hair from the brush and roll it into a ball and put it in a tin. So this is a culture in India. Usually what they would do is, for efficiency, is gather it over a month and then bury it once a month, right? So in the early, I would say 50s, right, the 1950s, there were a few people who identified this as an opportunity. And instead of people burying the hair, used to get people going to them and offering them various different bartering mechanisms, sometimes money, sometimes food, sometimes things for the house or whatever the case may be, to take over the hair. So they would then take over the hair, bundle it in bags. These bags would then be transported to what is called a junk dealer. In our terms would be called a recycling company. So human hair actually originated as a recycling business, because one must understand that at the end of the day, I mean, hair going to waste is unnecessary. So that is the cheaper form of human hair, and that is what goes into your cheaper human hair products, which you would find on the shelves in retailers and chain stores and things like that. Then you get the boutique type hair, which is collected through the temples. This is what is known as Remy hair. So the difference between non-Remy and Remy, non-Remy is where all the cuticles are not aligned in the same direction and the hair is not collected root to tip. Whereas Remy hair is collected from root to tip, and therefore all the cuticles are aligned, and therefore there is less tangling, right? So the Remy hair is collected from the temples. Now what happens is you have women and men, for that matter, going to the temples to donate their hair. The temple then bundles this hair up, right, sorts it by length, right, and then resells the hair, right? So that is where the major cost is, because of the scarcity of human hair as a raw material. Whereas synthetic hair can be produced by, I mean, you know, as much as you want. So it's cheaper than human hair.
There must be some issues or some challenges in selling hair. Walk us through some of those.
Okay, look, the major challenges are, I mean, from a buying point of view, is you need to know the source where you are buying it from. Because firstly, you need to be procuring your human hair ethically. There are instances where human hair is procured unethically, you know, where people are either not paid a good value for the hair, number one, or in some cases there have been incidents where people actually cut a lady's hair while she's walking.
Serious?
You know, and this happens in the South American countries, and it happens in Russia. It doesn't much happen in India and China, because there's already a sort of formalized supply chain of how to deal with this. In fact, in China, what they do is they call people of the village together for a day, and they have a haircut day. So they basically give them a trim, as well as take out some of the pieces from the back here. So they're just taking small little bundles from the back here, which is not affecting hair growth in any way. It's not affecting the person's looks or aesthetics in any way, but they're using that hair to bundle up and sell it, you know, and obviously those people get paid for it. Yeah.
Let's talk about this area we're in right now. We are in Centurion, is one of your offices.
Yes.
What happens here?
Okay, so basically over here we run our e-commerce platform from here. We do all our distribution, administration, etc. from here, because most of our distribution is outsourced, the warehousing as well as the logistics. So we use this office to centralize all the administrative processes, the importing, dealing with customers, receiving customers. We have a little showroom. We have, like I said, our e-commerce warehouse in this place. We do training over here. Further to that, what we do is we make custom wigs out of weave. So if a lady says, hey, listen, you know what, I'd like a weave, I like the hair, but I don't like to weave it into my head. I'd like to make it into a wig. So we have a small little wig operation here, which is sufficient to produce about 10 wigs a day. That's 300 wigs a month.
Give us a little bit of your vision, basically, moving forward.
Okay, so the vision for Dazzle itself, right, would be to set up Dazzle stores in Africa. We currently do have a franchise option. And what we are looking at is we're targeting one franchise per country, and we would only open up in the capitals and in the major centers in those countries. So for example, if you take Mozambique, we would do Maputo and Nampula, covering south and north, but that would only be one. Also further to that, we would add an e-commerce platform to the Dazzle to the Dazzle business. Therefore, we'd be able to service the entire country from one location, keeping it a prestigious and sort of glamorous location. And I mean, you know, I've walked into many hair stores in my life, and what I found is that a woman doesn't really have you know, a beautiful shopping experience when she's buying hair, you know. I mean, she usually ends up in some little store, in some little place, some corner, and it's, you know, not treated well enough, whatever the case may be. And that is why Dazzle was started. And like I say, Dazzle has a continental vision, so that's where we want to go. Okay,
well, thank you, Kabir, for speaking to us. Keep making sure that we look gorgeous all the time.
Dazzling.
Dazzling all the time. So that was Kabir Mohammed, who's the MD of Buhle Braids as well as Dazzle. From us here on My Business Rules, it's good night.